Let's bring in Jim DeMint, the chairman of the Conservative Partnership Institute, the former senator also from South Carolina. Ominous news out of the Washington Post that the Defense Intelligence Agency has concluded that North Korea has managed to miniaturize a nuclear weapon. How does that change the thinking of Washington, Mr. DeMint?
John, it changes a lot. It represents a trail of broken political promises and bad intelligence. This is a multi-billion-dollar program that North Korea has been involved with. They clearly have customers, likely Iran and others. We don't know where these missiles could end up, so the assumption that they can't fire at us because we would fire back is probably not a good assumption. What we need to do, John, is we clearly need to rethink our relationship with China. North Korea could not survive without support from China. China holds a key here, yet we continue to have normal relations, trade relations with China. We need to bear down on them, otherwise North Korea won't change. We need to do everything we can to make sure these missiles are not sold and shipped around the world. The most important thing I think we need to do right now is get really busy expediting our missile defense system that should have been completed decades ago. But the only way to render these missiles useless is to be able to shoot them down. So we need to make sure that this is funded and that there is political support, hopefully bipartisan political support, for a missile defense system, not only for ourselves, but our allies in South Korea and in Japan.
The Japanese, as you speak of them, the Japanese have concluded the same thing, that miniaturization of a nuclear warhead has been successfully concluded in North Korea. Our Defense Intelligence Agency says the same thing. Do you think, talking about bipartisan questions here, do you think that there will be argument in official Washington about the danger that this poses and about whether or not they have successfully achieved this goal?
I think we know they have achieved the goal, or like Ari just said, it may be December, it may be a few months later. We know they're there. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to continue to act like this strategy of mutually assured destruction will actually work in a world where we're dealing with really crazy people? We cannot rely on their fear of being destroyed. What we need to rely on is our ability to render these missiles useless with the ability to shoot them down. And again, I believe that we need to work with China, and we need to do everything we can to advance our missile defense system.
As you know, that's an expensive proposition. Is the appetite there in Congress to fund a more aggressive anti-missile system?
The alternatives are much more expensive, John, so I hope Congress can come together on this one and keep this program moving along, because it's pretty much been stalled for 10, 20 years, but we've got the basic technology to make it happen.
And in terms of leaning on China, you mentioned that China is the key here. Would you essentially punish China for the support that it has given the Kim regime?
I don't know what the course is there, but clearly our trade with China has enriched them and allowed them to build their own military, and they're clearly supporting North Korea. I don't want a trade war with China, but we need to be serious with them that they are endangering us and the whole world by their support of North Korea. This has gotten way out of control, and China is clearly an accomplice to this. So we just need to be much more serious about how we deal with China.
Senator, this is Melissa Francis. If I can jump in and ask you a question here. The guest that came out before you advocated the idea of trying to pressure the regime until it was toppled, talking about different places that has worked around the world. It does seem like it's a tough strategy, because at some point you have to decide that it's not working and take other action. How realistic do you think a strategy like that is at this moment?
It would be very realistic if China was cooperative. And we were talking about how to replace the regime. Frankly, unification of Korea is what would be next in line there, and there are a lot of folks in South Korea that would like to see that happen. That would be very difficult and expensive, but better than trying to replace one bad regime in North Korea with another. So there are some options, but again, China is the key, but the commitment of Americans to be tough and to make sure that we can defend any missile strike on ourselves as well as our allies would again make the marketability of these North Korean missiles, the sale price would be much lower.
H.R. McMaster, the president's national security advisor, has said that a nuclear-armed North Korea would be intolerable to this president. So it appears that they have all the goods. We know they have the ICBMs. Now apparently they have miniaturized the warheads to make it possible. So having said that it is intolerable, what does the president do? What does the national security advisor say now?
Well, the last 3 presidents have said it's intolerable. Both political parties have said it, yet we're here at the brink now. I frankly think it's too late to just be, the political speak we have in Washington. We've got to get serious, and this program is very expensive that North Korea has been a part of, and we have to get at the root causes and the financing of this, and that's just going to take a little more open debate than we're having right now.
I'm just stepping back and thinking about the nuclear blackmail that might be underway here. I mean, essentially, you have an impoverished country, cannot feed their own people, barely has electricity, and yet they have the world's dominant superpower with some 6,000 nuclear warheads in our arsenal. They seem to have us cowed to a certain point, or at least worried about what they're going to do.
Yeah, again, it's an intolerable situation with a very unstable leader, and some of the folks that they've been working with on this, including Iran. I mean, it suggests, John, we need to certainly rethink the Iran agreement and other things we've done there. So we've started a number of things that have led to this, and the fact that we've allowed Iran to move ahead with a nuclear program and their association with North Korea just suggests that we have not handle this well as a country, and we need to catch up really fast.
All right, so you've been in some very high-level meetings in your time in Washington and your time as a senator especially. If you were in the cabinet room advising the president today, what would you tell him?
Missile defense first, and then China relations is certainly right there at the top as well. Those 2 things have got to move ahead very quickly.
All right, thank you so much. We're going to turn now to Admiral